Today, I'm going to show you how secretly easy painting white is. Over and out. 10-4. Yo dog, Kenny Boucher here, Next Level Painting. Hitting you up on the literal best of all days on this glorious Friday in the Beats Lab in Hollywood, California. Got another painting tutorial for you. Today we're going to be painting with Army Painter. We're going to be using a lot of their products from their paint line. I'm going to show you how Army Painter makes it easy. We're going to be utilizing the airbrush, dry brush technique, and the wash technique. These are some of the signature techniques of Army Painter. They've even told me, hey, if you're one of those guys who likes to slowly layer your paint up, thin coat by thin coat, go somewhere else. That's not what they're about. What they're about is getting the paint on the models and making those models look good in real easy steps. Kind of fits into the secretly easy tech. I'm going to be showing you how to paint white. We're going to be painting a Kabuki model, the Angel Knight, the Sanguinius, as it were. Definitely catch up on Twitch, because we actually painted all the golds and all the bronzes already using the Army Painter technique. You won't believe how secretly easy that shit was. Speaking of Twitch, don't miss out on the action. You gotta get in on it. It's live tutorials and now we're back. All February is Viewer Appreciation Month, but don't get it twisted. We got rewards and incentives all day, every day, Tuesday and Friday. Don't miss the Long War Network. If you guys don't mind, I want to take a quick second to do a video shout out for some of our clutch patrons who came in hot in the last 2 weeks, because I took a whole 5 days off for LVO 2017. Real quick, my man Benjamin, Nick, Gerard, Fernando, Derek, Gaz, of course Brendan, Michael, Noah, my man Chris, Kyle, Michael, Alex, my man Christian, Leonid, of course, Daniel, Wyatt, Dirk, Raymond, Charlie, my man Andrian, Nigel, Raymond, and Jared. Thanks guys, you came in clutch. Patreon is my personal crowdfunding page. I cannot do it without you, and you guys are helping me keep the lights on. If you want to see these videos early, up to 2 weeks, up to even 3 weeks, check out Patreon. Anyway guys, let's do this thing. Here it is guys, the Kabuki Limited 13-200 Angel Knight. Now this is what we did on Twitch live, no movie magic, super simple tech. This is the Army Painter lineup of colors that we used. It was so easy. Definitely go back onto Twitch, check out the VOD. Now here what we're doing is we're taking the Army Paint primer, we're taking that Space Wolf style gray, the wolf gray, and we're just gonna bang it down on these wings, okay? Real easy. Using that gangster primer technique that the Army Painter is famous for. Now we're gonna grab this Gorgon Hide color. It's a sweet off gray with a little blue in it. And we're gonna create a gangster gumbo using their War Paints mixing medium. Now this is really gonna help the paint flow through the airbrush. And I'm showing you guys how to make Army Painter paints flow through the airbrush, because they are very pigment concentrated paints. It's very difficult under normal circumstances to get to run through your airbrush. So now what we're going to do is we're going to let some of the medium out. They advise that. Shake it up, pour it in the pot. Stir it up with our little stirring straw, and we got a pretty easy to operate with medium here, very milky, like whole milk. Now let's do the gangster gumbo and the backflow technique. Get it nice and mixed. Make sure it's coming out. No speckles. Let's prime the pump, as it were. We're ready to go. Oh, but always keep the tip clean. That's obvious. So we'll come on with several thin coats. I mean, like real thin. We're trying to build up a very pillowy white. But first, we're using this as a stepping stone. And we're basically going to undo all the primer here. We're not really actually trying to preserve too much of this blue here. But the nature of an airbrushed paint is that it's semi-transparent. All paint is transparent. But airbrush paint, when it's thinned out, it's very transparent. So it's going to interact a little bit differently. So you see it's very thin. It's even beaten up in some areas. That's not what I want under normal circumstances, but it is an airbrush. I can let it dry between applications and reinforce it. So we're just adding more air as we go, less paint, letting it rapidly dry. We're not going to try to dump all this paint off on this darker blue all in one go. We are committed to keeping the paint thin. You can see it's not really mattering that it's beating up in some areas because I am moving, I'm keeping the air flowing, we're doing multiple thin coats. That's the way to go. And we're going to get a nice color here. This Gorgon hide is a very great color for this. I mean, it's such a great off-white. Now here we go. You've seen we've painted it all. We let it dry. Now we're doing another quick thin application. I even changed the color balance so that we pull some of the blues and yellows out of it because the lighting had an interesting way of interacting with that Gorgon hide since we had balanced it for the other blue. But now this is what we're working with. It's a very near white. Now the matte white, it's more of a primer. It's designed to match their primer color, but I'll be honest with you, it's a little bit more difficult to control through the airbrush. But all whites are kind of a bitch. So you're gonna have to play with it a little more, get the mix right, get the right ratio of medium to water, stir it up. Probably gonna have to go on a little bit of the thinner side, but that's fine. We're no strangers to that. And you see we're slowly building up a white over this Gorgon hide. Now here's where it gets interesting. We'll let it dry. And we're going to come in with that white again, and we're going to aggressively dry brush these ridges. Now, since that white was transparent, because that's the nature, right? It's not truly a white yet. This dry brush white is truly a white. And you can see it's catching the ridges. It's creating new contrasts. It's hitting those details. It's finding the details in the feathers, the ridges, everything. It's a real gangster back and forth. We're really not even drying off the dry brush that much. You see that? Perfect. And one of the tricks here with the dry brush is don't get impatient. Get it going the way you like. Put it down for a minute. Let it dry. Because all you end up doing is pushing the dry brush paint around if you keep going too aggressively. But I don't like to operate with my dry brush super dried out because it creates an unnatural texture that I just don't like. So what I'm doing here is kind of a sloppy medium dry brush. Getting all those ridges, making them look their best. I keep flipping it in the right directions. I become conscious of where the ridges are so I don't just, scrape a bunch of this white over the smooth areas in unnatural ways. Now, I'm going to use a gloss varnish like I always do, and luckily the Army Painter makes one. A real quick light coat. I always use gloss varnish before I do any wash game. I find that it locks in the colors. It seals the model with the most amount of protection. And since we did a bunch of real subtle airbrush, this is not a bad idea anyway, but it's going to help break up the surface tension when we go into the wash game. Now what we're doing here is we're using another product. It's the Quick Shade Medium. Now Quick Shades are their washes. We're going to add basically their black wash, which is their dark tone. But do you see the imbalance here? I have so much medium to wash. Couple drops of blue tone, maybe one tiny drop. So what we're doing here is we are, manipulating the quick shade into a glaze. We put so much medium in there, we're actually going to make this a gray wash, like a stony gray. That is not black at all. It's going to be very subtle and very glaze-like. And we're only going to use the shade medium to cut it. We're not going to use any water whatsoever. And now we have a nice bluey gray. And since our wing is varnished, like I said, the surface tension should be kind of like glass or at least plastic. So we're going to slowly push this new quote unquote shade glaze into the areas we want, which essentially is 100% of the surface area of this model. But it's always good to move a little slow, exploratory at the beginning stages. You can already see we're getting great results. The glaze shade that we've created is finding its ways into the nooks and the crannies. It's now creating definition. It's showing you those the sculpted differences in the feathers, the little comic book style cross hatching that was built into them. The cool, I don't even know. I'm not a feather scientist. I don't know what the parts of the feathers are, but it's making them look better. And it's subtle. See, if we came in with a pure black, it would have been too gangster. The fact that it's so thin and it's been transformed into a grayish stony glaze, we're going to get some good work out of it on this. And check this out. Now it's all about flipping the model around, right? You got to move the model get to the right position. Also, you always got to be aware of where gravity is draining the glaze, but luckily this glaze is pretty thick because we didn't use any water. So we're not having to worry about drainage too much. And also, since it's so thick, we're not having to, we're not worried about its dry time here. It's very slow dry, super slow. So you have a lot of time to manipulate it. And there we go. We've let it dry for a while, and we have a nice, very clean amount of contrast. Like basically the whole theory here is we're creating contrast by making the dark areas darker and the bright areas brighter. So you've guessed it, we're back to the dry brush stage. We're doing the same thing we just did, aggressively dry brush. You always got to take it up to that next level. So make the bright areas bright. Here it is. And look at how much it's doing to the model already. We're getting a very nice, clean contrast. And there it is. We spent a little bit of time doing the exact same process. I don't want to bore you with it, but there it is. He's not done. We're going to still finish him. He has an amazing base and a robe and a tabard still. We're going to be finishing that on Twitch. You're not going to want to miss it. The Angel Knight by Kabuki. You might also notice his sword is done in this video. Got a tutorial on that coming out soon too. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching and play on, players. If you like these tutorials, check out Next Level Painting on Patreon. Become a patron of the arts today. We offer early and exclusive access to our videos and a rewards program for different pledge levels. Patreon is PayPal and credit card secure, so you don't have to worry about that. We use 100% of the money to improve our process.